I'm Trelawny Howell, the great-grandniece of Sir Henry Pellet. Since 2005, I've been speaking at Executive Council meetings and sending letters to City Councillors and staff advocating for an open governance process and revitalization of Casa Loma, which has finally arrived.
Mr. Chair, with great respect, the speaker is speaking and I don't think I can hear her. I don't know if she can hear herself. So I think it'd be helpful to have quiet in the room.
Thank you,
Thank
Councillor
you,
Tinker.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
In April 2005, I received my first media support after an article I wrote on Casa Loma's fate was published in a magazine. It was about the city's unaccountable history of leasing Casa Loma solely to the Kiwanis Club since 1936. I was a member of the Kiwanis Club of Casa Loma for 6 years and resigned in 2005 after writing my article. I knew firsthand that the city privately subsidized Kiwanis Club charity operations for over 75 years, renewing their leases without ever having an open tender process for competitive bids, which is where we are finally at today. I took my article to the city's press gallery, the Globe and Mail's City Bureau Chief, not to mention National Post, Toronto Star, CBC Radio, then contacted me for interviews. This started the process of bringing to the public the awareness of what was going on. Since then, I have continued to advocate for open, competitive leasing of Casa Loma. For the past 8 years, I've seen City Council and the Executive Committee disregard reports made by the city staff and their appointed panels. CLAC's 2007 Casa Loma Advisory Committee report determined that Kiwanis Club management was unsustainable, but their recommendation for an open tender process for the future management of Casa Loma was never adopted. At the City Executive Committee meeting in July 2007, I spoke about potential options for the future use of Casa Loma. I suggested Liberty Grand back then and the Carlu should be the top contenders to operate Casa Loma, given their successful history of restoring and running venues in the city's other grand heritage buildings. In December 2007, Liberty Group was even hired by the Kiwanis Club to be Casa Loma's new caterers to help secure their proposal to the city for another 20-year lease. Like the city's own staff recommendations, for several years I urged City Council to conduct an audit of Kiwanis management. Instead, they awarded Kiwanis Club another 20-year lease in July 2008. Shortly after the new 20-year lease agreement was signed, Liberty Group's catering deal with the Kiwanis Club disappeared. In July 2010, after a city-appointed auditor revealed mismanagement arrears in rents, non-compliance with other lease obligations, and the Kiwanis Chair's conflict of interest for receiving legal fees, City Council finally terminated the Kiwanis lease. Yet the city's headaches caused by the Kiwanis Club were not over. The city's lease to Kiwanis had an out clause. The city could terminate its 2008 lease after 2 years without penalty because of the non-compliance issues found in the Kiwanis audit. However, the city manager negotiated a termination deal to pay Kiwanis Club over $5 million in value in undisclosed fees, including $3 million the city waived for arrears in rent and obligations for improvements that Kiwanis did not make to Casa Loma. The city paid Kiwanis $1.45 million to purchase Casa Loma's furnishings and artifacts, many of which had been donated to Casa Loma in the first place. The city also paid $300,000 in management fees to subsidize the Kiwanis Club charity. Due to their charity status, they were also exempted from paying property taxes
Ms. Howell, I
in their
have to
lease.
interrupt. My apologies. Your 5 minutes are up.
Oh.
May I ask you, are you in support of the recommendations of item number 2?
Yes, I recommended them in 2007, and the only other thing I wanted to...
Thank you very much. Now, are there questions by or from visiting councillors? See, Councillor Lindsay Luby.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your deputation and for bringing us through that history that perhaps some of the people around this table were not aware of, and that's been very helpful review. What was the other thing you were going to add?
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I was just going to say that during the 9 years, I've kept a website of all the city's reports, videos, council meetings, press archives, and it's casalomatrust.ca. So everything that's gone on over the last 9 years that I've been advocating is on that website. And I would like the opportunity in the future to work with the city and Liberty Group to continue my input and help in the revitalization of Casa Loma.
And you are I guess, a relative to Sir Henry Pillatt? I don't know if that's been made aware here.
Yes, thank you. I'm the great-grandniece of Sir Henry Pillatt.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Questions by members now of committee? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Through you to the Speaker, Ms. Howell. Are you satisfied that the current arrangement, which allows students and members of the community to visit the castle, will be continued?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Thompson. I'm thrilled, absolutely, and as I say, I've been advocating for this for 9 years, and I was just giving the history of what's gone on and hoping that it won't be repeated in a new lease.
Right,
And,
I just want...
Absolutely, the support of the students, the community. I'd like to see George Brown College with their culinary school be involved in some sort of competitions with catering and that sort of thing, bring
Right.
in all levels of venues.
Right, I only asked that question because it appears that that's the question that's been asked of me by members of the community, and I just wanted to ensure that you were in sync with the understanding in terms of going forward with the agreement, that that provision would be there, and certainly not speaking to the issue of the actual confidential items, but just in general, that that will still continue for young students throughout the city to be able to have the Casa Loma experience that I had when I was a young boy.
I would hope that they wouldn't be charged. I'd like to see no admission or some sort of arrangement there, and so that people could come in and obviously with Liberty Group involved in the catering and so on and running the operations, there may be something that they can adjust there and maybe charge for the museum if the city goes ahead with their museum in the lodging area, but hopefully make some sort of compensation on the administration.
Okay,
to-
thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Those are my
Thank you. Any
questions.
further questions? Councillor Leon.
Through you, Mr. Speaker. Ms. Howell, thank you very much for the presentation. It was very good to read, and I appreciate you coming here this morning. I was very impressed with what you said, and of course, being family background, that makes it even more notable. I'm interested in the museum that's being proposed over there, and I'm hopeful, Mr. Chairman, that Ms. Howell in some way might continue to stay involved with her interest in the project, and that we could utilize her input towards our deliberations on the museum. I talked about it earlier this week with some other people, and what I heard this morning, I think it'd be invaluable to have you as a part of that process, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I didn't have a chance to finish the other half of my speech, and what I was going to say was I would really like to see Sir Henry Pillatt's history up to today's date put into the City Museum so that we can really tell this full story of what happened, including all the duration since the 100 years that almost that the castle has been since it was built, and it just to really follow the true story of what went down.
Through you, Mr. Speaker, I would ask that perhaps we can show in the minutes that Ms. Howell might be asked to be a participant in our discussions and deliberations once the museum
Our minutes
comes to play.
aren't written that way.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, any further
I'll move-
questions?
No, I'm okay, Mr. Chairman.
Just a gentle suggestion. You can basically say anything you want as long as you frame it as a question.
Oh. Ms. Howell, would you, through you, Mr. Chairman, would you be willing to serve on something as we get something in place to talk about the museum?
I would be honored to, thank
It'd
you.
be our
And
pleasure to
I
have
feel it's very important.
Thank you. Thank you for your guidance, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
thank you.